Buildings contribute to almost 50% of the carbon emissions in the UK, and we need to take action to make buildings more energy efficient as part of the UK's commitment to tackling climate change. Now, we've already launched energy performance certificates, which highlight the existing energy efficiency of the fabric of a building and what can be done to make it more efficient. But driving up energy efficiency in buildings means more than improving the fabric of the buildings. It means ensuring that they are used and managed in a sustainable way. That's why the government is also introducing display energy certificates, which will give a rating based on how much energy a public sector building has actually used. Government and other public authorities will be using DECs to make the way they use their buildings more publicly accountable. So for the first time, visitors and staff can see just how much energy a building is using and also whether this has gone up or down over the last 3 years. DECs represent a real opportunity and a visible commitment by the public sector to reducing carbon emissions in the buildings they occupy. This short video gives an insight into DECs, where you should expect to see them, how they are produced, and why, if you're a public sector organisation, you should display one. DECs will be a clear reminder to everyone of how much energy a building is using, and the intention is that it will inspire organisations and their employees to take action and work together to encourage a reduction in the use of energy.
A display energy certificate gives a building a rating on a scale from A to G and comes with an advisory report which highlights specific actions that can be taken to reduce its carbon emissions. The DEC rating is based on the amount of energy used to heat, cool and light the building, and is based on a comparison with a building typical of its type, the benchmark. Only public authorities or institutions providing a public service are affected. If they occupy a building greater than 1,000 square metres, then they will need to display a DEC. DECs are based on the actual amount of metered energy used by the building over a period of 12 months. The DEC should be displayed at all times in a prominent place, clearly visible to the public. A DEC is accompanied by an advisory report which lasts 7 years, which lists cost-effective measures to improve the building's energy rating. DECs can only be produced by an accredited energy assessor.
When we produce a DEC, we require all the meter readings and energy statements for the fuel used in the building. We also require the total usable floor area of the building. When we've collected all the information, we put it into the approved operational rating software to produce the DEC. We also produce an advisory report in conjunction with the building energy manager.
The Natural History Museum is a historical building, but despite this we've managed to make a number of significant improvements to the property without having to disturb the actual appearance of the site, which is very important due to the listed status of this property. Due to these particular improvements we've made, we have managed to achieve an E rating for the DEC. Now, for a building of this age, that's very, very good. One of the primary improvements we've made to the site, which has allowed us to get that energy rating, has been the installation of a combined heat and power plant, which provides us with not only a proportion of electricity supply, but is also a very energy efficient way of heating and cooling the building. As an energy manager for the site, I have the experience and skills to become an accredited assessor through the approved prior experience and learning route. Following on from the training of the operational rating software, I have produced 3 sample DECs, which are then submitted to the accreditation scheme, and these are then approved before I'm officially become an approved assessor.
The Energy Performance of Buildings Directive required us to produce energy performance certificates that we have to display on buildings. Rather than use the energy performance certificates that we had, we decided to have display certificates which showed us how well we were using the building rather than how good the building was in terms of its fabric and heating system.
The operational rating is calculated using new software which we've had to invent as a way of assembling information which is obtained from, for instance, meter readings. There are 29 benchmarks covering the various classes of buildings which are encountered in everyday life. One of them is an example is office buildings as a class, and within the class there are several subtypes, for instance air-conditioned offices and also offices which are just heated and naturally ventilated. Adjustments are allowed, of course, to allow for the real world. There are adjustments, for instance, for weather conditions. Comparisons can be made on the basis of standardised occupation density and also for standardised periods during the working day.
We can use this building at Eland House as a case in point to demonstrate the usefulness of having an EPC and a DEC. Whilst Eland House is a relatively modern building, at 15 years old, many of its building services are nearing the end of their useful life and are not as efficient as new equipment. Eland House fared quite well with the EPC and got a rating as a C. However, on its DEC rating, it rated as an F. The DEC for the Natural History Museum shows how an older building can be made more efficient. Having a visible reminder to the public about the building's energy usage helps the energy manager to make a case for improvements to senior management.
Display energy certificates will be required for a variety of public sector buildings. Buildings likely to need a DEC include hospitals, museums, town halls, municipal golf club houses, public libraries, and so on. DECs are valid for 12 months and need to be renewed every year. Buildings that are never visited by the public do not need a DEC. When buildings are new, sold or let, they require an EPC, which serves a different purpose of demonstrating the building's capability to be energy efficient.
DECs are really important because they provide for the very first time an opportunity to see visibly the energy performance of buildings. For those organisations who have scored highly on the DECs, that's great endorsement of good work well done over previous years to improve energy efficiency and make sure the building has got a lower carbon footprint. But for those organisations who may be disappointed in the score they've achieved, that's no reason to be downhearted. There's tremendous opportunity, therefore, to improve energy efficiency and climb up the ladder. We've worked with literally hundreds of public sector organisations using very simple measures to improve energy efficiency. I've got two examples of organisations that we've been working with who have made amazing improvements to their energy efficiency. First, Oxfordshire County Council, through simple measures, have achieved a 6% reduction in carbon emissions. Second, Aberystwyth University, simply by installing presence detection systems on their lighting, have achieved a £30,000 per annum saving.
Well, Birmingham's really keen to show that the DECs are important to us because we see DECs as enabling us to say to our citizens that our buildings are at the right rating. We know that some of them are a low rating, we want to improve them and we want to invest in them. And we also want to construct our new buildings to the highest possible rating as well. Display energy certificates also come with an advisory report, and those reports are important evidence to show to our councillors so that they can agree the business case for future investment to reduce energy consumption. As a City Council, we're very keen to show leadership in tackling climate change. We've got quite a significant target of CO2 reductions and a 60% reduction by 2026. So we have to show and demonstrate and take action to reduce the energy consumption of our own buildings, and DECs are a key part of that process.
Get a display energy certificate. Know your rating, show your rating, and lower your rating. For more information, visit www.communities.gov.uk/EPBD.